Playbook for Performance, the official podcast of Shauna Corden, the Joan of Arc for corporate healing and performance. Join the quest to make work fun again by preparing leadership for engaging workplaces. And now, your host.
Hey everybody, Shauna Corden here. So welcome back to another edition of the podcast. So we're in the middle of our business planning segment, and we have just cast the vision so we know what the most beautiful business is going to look like. We've figured out our values, we're figuring out who we're serving, and now we've painted this picture. What's it going to look like? And now our next step is really to chunk it down, to bring it into life by translating that picture into actions that we can do each and every day. So let's get to it. So, a term I like to use that comes from my project management background and PMO background is a WBS. Well, what's a WBS? A WBS stands for a work breakdown structure. It's a very fancy project management term, but it basically takes the vision and chunks it down into bite-sized manageable pieces. A true WBS is no more than 8 hours of work. So you can think of that as a work day. Now, that will be way too detailed for taking that vision and putting it in a 3-year business plan or a 1-year business plan. But depending on how robust your business is, you may not need that level of detail. So what we really want to do is deconstruct that big piece and figure out what it takes to achieve it. So what do? So let's use the analogy of a wedding. Everybody's been to a wedding or they've watched one on TV. And planning a wedding, if you ask any bride-to-be, is rather overwhelming, depending on how controlling their mother is. So let's think about this. You've got music, you've got a venue, whether it be a church, a synagogue, a mosque, or an outdoor, non-religious ceremony, justice of the peace. You've probably got some kind of reception afterwards, which may or may not have dancing. So are you going to have music? Are you going to have a DJ? What's that going to be like? Are you going to serve refreshments? Alcohol, no alcohol, finger foods, sit-down meal. All of these little decisions that need to be made translate into tasks. And a lot of them are decision-based. But also, once you've made the decision, you need to follow through and book a caterer. You have to set a budget. You have to determine how many people are going to be there and all of those things that are needed. Depending on your budget, it may determine how many guests you can have and how many you want. So think about that whole thing in terms of what do you want the wedding to look like? How many people do you want to be there? Do you want it to be an intimate affair? Do you want it to be something more robust, a who's who in your geography? And then if you wanted 500 people, let's say, versus 100, you might have a much more extensive budget for the 100 people to do a full meal. But if you are going to have 500, you might only have finger foods or just cake and champagne. It really depends. What are the details of the ceremony? How many groomsmen or bridesmaids will there be? Are you writing your own vows? What's going to happen? Budgeting for clothing, all of these things. But if you take every one of those categories, they become their own silo. So if we're talking about your business and you have 3 products that you use to serve customers, each one of those products is going to be like a different silo that you have to plan for. So if you had this beautiful vision that said, I am going to serve my clients in that when they come to town, I'm going to pick them up in a limo. I'm going to bring them to the training event. They're going to have their own personalized monogrammed bag waiting for them. I've already researched their favorite color. If you want to have that kind of American Express Platinum kind of experience, then you're going to translate that vision into those kind of details. You might have a partnership with a limo service. You might hire a limo driver and buy a limo for the business. It really depends, but you want to take everything that you cast in that vision and you want to ask yourself, well, what would it take to do that? Okay, now it's never going to be perfect because that's why we do a lot of rolling wave planning, meaning we're going to get into this, we're going to find out what it really entails, and then we're going to do more of it. So we're going to fill in all the blanks as we go. Things will emerge. As I talked about last week, when you move furniture, you naturally discover that there are dust bunnies behind it. And you may not have anticipated taking the time to vacuum or sweep or whatever it is, but you will need to do it. So just plan some cushion in there. The real key to this is that you want to have a plan that says, we are going from this vision, it turns into these products, and it means that we need these capabilities, this kind of staffing, this kind of equipment, this kind of tools, this kind of training, and so on. Document the changes, do the best you possibly can, and then break that down into quarters. So most people don't have a super long attention span. In all my time planning, most of the time when we did the quarterly reporting on progress, it caught people by surprise because they were so consumed with the day-to-day that was happening. And so they would do like a quarter's worth of work in 1 week. Well, I called that person and they didn't get back to me and da-da-da-da-da. So don't do that to yourself. Just have a plan for this 90 days. Here's what I'm going to accomplish. Or my focus for the next 90 days is going to be on this. Okay. That is the most successful method that I've seen. It's something that's advocated for in the book Traction. I really think it's a good way to go. So again, how to create the plan. You want to take each element of that painted picture and ask, what would it take to make that happen? So if we just take that one element of, we're going to have American Express Platinum type service for our clients when they travel to see us, what kind of logistics do you need in terms of picking up clients at the airport? Well, you probably need to know their travel itinerary. What kind of, car are you going to have? Are you going to hire within, or are you going to contract with somebody? Just ask yourself question by question. Well, what might interfere with that? What do we need to do that, etc. I would say work in 2-hour increments, just step by step through the vision. Stop after 2 hours, even if you're on a roll, because you're going to start skipping ahead. You're going to miss stuff in between. You're going to be a lot more productive if you just keep it to the 2 hours. Try not to get too detail oriented because you're going to come back in the next step to fill in the gaps. I would say in general, to create the overall high level plan, it's going to take about 12 hours, depending on how detailed your vision is. So let's say you've got all documented. You've got all those silos figured out. You've got, here's what we need for music. Here's what we need for the wedding venue. Here's what we need for food, and so on. You've kind of identified those big chunks. Once you do that, you've got to turn each one of those things into what we call a SMART goal. And you've probably heard SMART goals before. Specific, so we will have a DJ from 4 to 8 p.m. Measurable, we can measure 4 to 8 p.m. Attainable, yes, we can find a DJ. We're not on Mars. Realistic, yes, it's within our budget. They will travel to the venue, etc. And timely, we will have booked it by this time and date. Because if we don't get it booked by this time and date, we're going to have a problem. Okay? So, now, each goal needs to have an objective, it needs to have a measure, and it needs to have a deadline. So when it comes to, booking the venue, booking the DJ, things like that, some of these things will naturally set their own timeline, because if you have tried to book a wedding venue in the spring or nice weather, you will know that you don't get to pick your anniversary date. It's what Saturday is both the church and the venue, reception venue available, period. And then you are stuck with that if you're really attached to your venue. If you have 4 or 5, 6 places that you could consider, you might have more availability. It really just depends. But that is some of what you're going to be stuck with. And that's okay. That's okay. The more that we get better at this business planning, the more that we can really latch onto the details. So when do you want to work on the plan? You want to do it right after the vision. Remember, we always start with values, because values determine right people, right jobs. It also determines who belongs on your team and who doesn't. And then who are you serving? That's the focus. What are you going to do? And then the vision. So we've got all these awesome, cool people that work for us and are excited about the people we serve, skateboarders over 50 in suburbs, whatever it might be. And then what is it we're going to deliver to those people, and what's our plan to make it happen? Okay, so that's when we want to work on the plan. Now, I hope you found this helpful, whether you're trying to do your own personal plan to build muscle or something else. These lessons, this work breakdown structure, will serve you in your workplace, in your own side hustle. I can't emphasize enough how much project management is done by all of us. It's not that I'm just preaching nonsense because it's my favorite thing. Project management will help you from everything to how to study for tests to, how to get to the church on time. So I hope this has been really helpful. Please invite your friends. We are on YouTube. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, please hop over to YouTube, follow Shauna Corden, subscribe, and then you can get notifications every time we make a new post. We do offer leadership coaching. So if you would like a little lesson for me to come into your team and teach you how to do work breakdown structure, I would be thrilled to do that. That would be really fun. We also do some virtual workshops if you want to do that, coaching and mentoring. As you can see behind me, 2 books are out. One of them is about building a coaching culture. The other one is overcoming polarization. So meet me in the middle. I like you, you like me. Let's not dissolve our relationship based on this one little thing. So if you are in the HR community, I will be speaking at Sherman, Las Vegas in June. And I will be speaking at ICF Converge in August in Orlando. And I hope that if you hear this, you'll drop me a note and say, I will be there. So that way I can make sure I meet you in person. Until next time, take good care.
Thank you for listening to Playbook for Performance. To learn more about Shauna Corden, her consulting programs and tools, please visit her website at shaunacorden.com and follow us on social media at Shauna Corden.